we dig deeper into our study on what the future holds for us and figure out how to break the career code, I'm thrilled to have with us Dr. Ritesh Malik, a medical graduate who took a detour from conventional medicine to follow his passion for entrepreneurship. In 2016, he started a co-working platform called Innov8, which he sold to SoftBank Bank Oyo in 2019. Today, Innov8 is India's second largest co-working space, impacting thousands of entrepreneurs, freelancers, and enterprises to achieve zenith productivity. He's also been one of the most active angel investors in our country, investing in more than 80 plus companies in the last 6 years under something he calls Project Gorilla. After being part of a Y Combinator, Ritesh is also an investor in a San Francisco-based fund, which has helped to work with some of the most innovative startups globally. I'm going to name some of the companies he invested in: Witty Feeds, Arva, Sheros, Sadvico, Josh Talks, etc. His contribution and leadership have been recognized, and his contribution in the Indian startup ecosystem has gotten him many awards and recognitions, like the India Today Next 100 2021, Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia, Fortune 40 Under 40 India, PwC and SPH 40 Influential Leaders, Business World 40 Under 40, and this list goes on and on. So thank you firstly, Ritesh Malik, for doing this for us. It's super thrilled to have you on and super excited to learn from you. So for me, this is a personally a milestone interview because I've been really eager to have you in the book and really eager to pick your brains on the startup ecosystem. So thank you so much for making the time to do this.
Of course, Vibha, very excited. I think this is need of the hour in these turbulent times of change. One has to completely relook how education is being perceived, as well as how education is being imparted. So I think this is something very exciting, and I'm very excited for this. Thank you very much.
Okay, terrific. So just to set the context of the conversation, right? So since the book is about the future of work, and as we sit around thinking about what the future might entail, what are you thinking are some of the factors that are going to influence the future? You know, what are some of the predominant themes and features that you feel will impact our lives?
Sure. A quote that I repetitively tell people is that we are paid according to the ability with which we correctly predict the future. So everyone, whoever predicts the future better and then acts upon it. Now, if I would have told you that, Vibha, go and buy NVIDIA stock 4 years back,
Sure.
You would have made millions of dollars. It's in hindsight, everything looks very easy, but foresight is something which is very hard to develop. The challenge of our education system today is that we work a lot on developing the hindsight, but not the foresight, because development of foresight needs you to be away from. So I have this framework called the IWS framework.
Okay, sure.
Integrity, will, and skill. When we hire people, basically education focuses on skill development. My personal focus has always been on will and integrity. Because in today's, as you asked, theme, in today's day and age, theme which is predominant is democratization of access of information. And because of internet, everyone on the planet will have equal right and digital equity to have and access the same information. Now, it does not matter whether you are a billionaire. It does not matter whether you are the 8th billion poorest person on the planet.
Sure.
You have the ability to have digital access. So in my opinion, our education will see massive transformation from a skill-based economy to an economy that is replaced by will and integrity. So I think those are a couple of key themes that I see. And because digital is the key theme, everything around digital, like in this era, digital will become a hygiene. You cannot say that, okay, I run a business and making a website is not optional anymore.
Sure.
There's no business as a non-tech business. Every business is a tech business. You need to have your distribution on digital platforms.
Okay, but I like your angle on will and integrity a lot, because it relates to the education sector. But I think with this digitization that you're speaking of, will and integrity become sort of all pervasive, applicable across all sectors, no matter what you're doing, because the technology can go one way or the other. As long as the will and integrity is centered I think you're going to make the right decisions. Now, in this ecosystem of startups that you're exploring, and I know you have your touch points in many, many sectors, what are you seeing as sort of the most prominent, most exciting, formidable sectors for the future?
Um, uh, I think anything to do with so I call this the Rania 53. That's a mnemonic. I'm a doctor, so it's very easy for me to remember medicine names via a mnemonic. So I've created this mnemonic on Industry 4.0, which is robotics, artificial intelligence and machine learning, nanotechnology and material sciences, Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles and mobility,
Okay.
5G, 6G, and eventually all the upgraded technologies on democracy of internet penetration and 3D printing, not for just creating objects, but for creating houses.
Right.
So I see these are fundamental layers of technologies that will impact almost every industry. Example, the next big revolution. See, if you see, we have not changed the design of our airplanes for the past so many years. For the first time now, because of nanotechnology and material sciences, we will see that the design of our mobility will completely transformed. So I feel that these are areas which will be gold mines of wealth and value creation for people, because we need to study something. So the sad part of our education is what you study, you're only able to implement after a decade.
Sure.
Now, until and unless, and I don't remember anything that I studied in my school which was relevant. With the advent of chat GPT, so information will be democratized. Everyone will have the same information. Who will be rewarded with massive wealth creation or impact generation will be the ones who know how to ask the right questions.
Sure. Okay. So your mnemonic was, I think, spot on. I think all the sectors you spoke about, 3D printing, augmented reality, artificial and nanotech, material sciences. I'm glad I'm speaking to you and sort of reaffirming all the content we have in the book. I think we are sort of in line with the sectors you've spoken about. When you're looking at these sectors, how are you seeing the startup ecosystem in India, firstly, support these rising sectors? You know, are you seeing a surge in international wealth coming in? Are you seeing the domestic startup ecosystem here in India evolve? You know, where is the wealth effect coming from?
I think overall India will be a very important country for the global happiness, global peace and prosperity. We are world's largest digital democracy. We are also we are a very different country. We are not truly a capitalist country. We are not a socialist country. We are not a communist country. India is India in its own way. I believe that the time for India has come. For the first time, I feel that access to information will lead to a lot of uh, young folks in our country to create value on the internet. So while we give a lot of focus to startups, you'll be amazed startups don't contribute a lot to job creation. While we say that be a job creator, the startups actually don't contribute to job creations. Startups are the core job creation in the country happens via the MSME sector, the medium, small, and mid-scale enterprises. Those are the ones. Digitization of MSMEs will be the biggest opportunity creation in the country. So that is one. The second piece is overall startup ecosystem is bound to increase in terms of its domain, because number of people who have these exponential ideas, uh, penetration of startup concepts because of platforms like Shark Tank. Now startups have also gone very democratized. Like when I go to Banaras, like kids of 11th class ask me what is your cogs, what's your or cost of goods sold, and I was amazed. I said, how do you know that? He said that no, because of Shark Tank I know that. So I think overall startups will be a theme. We will see a lot of uh, D2C brands. It will still take time for us to build deep platform brands like Google or Facebook or Tesla because our venture capital ecosystem is still not mature enough to continuously back founders who are continuously making losses. So capacity building will take its own course of time, but overall very optimistic on the startup ecosystem.
Overall, very optimistic. Okay, so what is when you have this level of optimism, when you're seeing more and more young people wanting to become entrepreneurs in India, as an investor, how do you gauge for future readiness? How do you know that this investor, this entrepreneur is ready, and how do you make that final call? You know, what is it that sort of tips the balance in the favor of this entrepreneur?
See, overall, I'm a founder investor, so I'm not. I usually don't judge founders by a lot of technical know-how or a lot of financial know-how. I'm more focused on attention. My goal is to see where is the attention flowing. Is the founder very close to the problem, and has the problem identified a solution which drives attention of commerce? Example, uh, when we invested so we invested in a D2C brand, and no one knew of them. They were rejected by every VC firm. And the moment I saw their product, I fell in love, because I said, like, this is like, I don't understand why don't people want to invest? Because without investing capital on Facebook or Google, this gentleman is getting consumers by word of mouth, because his net promoter score is so high. So like how I look at businesses is that build a product, create a lot of word of mouth for it. And if people are coming again and again without you spending marketing dollars, that is magical nirvana for you as a founder.
Okay, so not good for Meta is good for Ritesh. No dollars spent on Meta means it's a good sign for you. That's a good indicator.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, when you're looking at leadership of these startups and you see these startups going through their growth curves, what sort of leadership skills do you think young entrepreneurs will need to instill in themselves to sustain in the future?
I think first of all, work-life balance. It's a very abused term. People think that in our ecosystem even today, people who work 18 hours a day are respected. That he works a lot or she works a lot. It's actually wrong. We were not supposed to work this much. We need to work with a lot, because it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So one thing which I tell to all the founders that I meet, that focus on building systems which can be elongated till you die. Don't do sprints of 2 to 3 years where you work like a mad founder and then get burnt out and shut down your company or sell your companies. Like, build, and I've been there, so I know. Build systems, focus on your health, focus on your family. It's a long marathon. So that's one skill that I tell to every founder. Focus on mental health, focus on your physical health, focus on your relationships. So that's one piece of it. The second piece of it that I see lacking in a lot of founders today is ability to be very frugal. Like, businesses are all about profitability. Even today, out of 114 unicorns, I think 75 of them are still loss making. While I agree that making a loss for startups is absolutely all right if you are a platform business like a Google or a Facebook or a Misho, but you cannot make losses, at least at center level, if you are a business that is a services business leveraging digital technology. So my belief is that it's high time we need to produce profits, and we need to finally get out of the vicious cycle of VCs going from series A, B, C, and then finally getting listed. So that's something that I always tell. And the last piece which I always tell is that one leadership advice is that every 6 months, every 2 quarters, the leader needs to change.
Leader needs to change. Wow. Okay.
Leader needs to change. With changing dynamics, you have to change the kind of quality of talent that you have to attract. The talent that I needed 10 years back, I cannot behave the same with the talent that I need now. I need to completely somersault. And every day, if a leader is not spending 2 hours on upgradation of his or her own skills, it won't make sense. Spending a lot of time learning, spending a lot of time in building the culture, And those are slow skills. Like Indian founders are very good at fast skills, traveling a lot, backpacking, going out there, hustling it out. What they are not good at is slow thinking. So I think that is something, mindfulness is something which is extremely relevant in today's day.
Okay, great. Okay, lots of great tips there. A lot of them I resonate with, especially the process-driven mindset, making sure that the process outlives the entrepreneur. I think that was very beautifully phrased.
And one last thing, I'm sorry.
Please, yeah, please.
Institution building.
Institution building.
How do you build value? You cannot build value on personal productivity. You build value by thoughtfully thinking about your actions, building processes and SOPs around it, and then delegating it beautifully, and eventually creating a conglomerate in which you are not required. I think institution building as a word is a very deep word, and institution building happens with time. And that's why a lot of founders want to just grow quickly. Growth should not come at the cost of institutionalized growth. So I think that is something which is extremely relevant.
Okay, very beautifully framed. Since you mentioned Google Meta a couple of times, what do you see happening in the future? Do you see a further divide, not just a social and economic divide, but a technological divide, with large companies such as Google and Meta owning copious amounts of data, understanding data, developing most of the AI techniques and tools, and then the rest of the world leveraging that data, leveraging their technology to build some SaaS product, to build some, small version of whatever, but the primary beneficiaries of the technology, rightfully so maybe, remains the larger companies. So are we going to see a world of further, a larger chasm in the world? Or do you see this gap getting divided? I'm hearing both sides of this argument. I'd love to get your take on it.
See, monopolies exist since humankind. So monopolies will always exist. The only challenge with today's monopolies is, so I'll give you an example. It took close to 76 years for deep penetration of the telephone. It took, I think if I'm not wrong, I'll send you the exact figures, around 40 to 50 years for deep penetration of newspapers. It took just 200, I think 200 hours or something to reach 1 billion users for ChatGPT.
Yes.
The more digitally intertwined our society gets, the more we are dependent on these digital monopolies like Google, Meta, and wherever there is concentration of power comes corruption. So I'm not saying that these companies are corrupt, but my true belief is that concentration of power, be it governments, institutions, or digital companies, is always wrong for the masses. So I fear that this is going to continue, unfortunately. But I also have a very deep divide in the process, that I feel that digital monopolies today are way easier to break than they were 25, 30 years back. Like 25, 30 years back, I could not think ChatGPT coming out of Sam Altman's thought process.
No.
Today, it's actually competing significantly with the future of Google. So I feel that monopolies will come on the positive side, and the earlier monopolies used to stay for a very long period of time. Today, monopolies will come and they will be again threatened by another digital economy, and so on and so forth. So that's change. And I think...
Okay, I hope your words ring true and somebody is able to break this, at least the current monopoly we're seeing in the world, because otherwise we're going to live in a more and more polarized world, which is probably not healthy for any part of the world. Since we're on the topic of contradictions, which side are you leaning towards? Are we going to see AI used towards good or AI for evil? I see both. AI for good. You don't see the negatives of AI. You don't see people using AI.
See, negatives for any technology. In fact, it's very simple. For anything, if you continuously switch on your AC, you will feel cold after a while. So हमारे उसमें कहते हैं कि अति हर चीज की खराब है. So abuse,
excess of anything is bad.
anything is wrong. So uh, while it's hard to control at times, but I feel that overall there will be regulation. The more and more a technology comes in, regulation also starts jumping in. So while regulation is a laggard right now, eventually the more it impacts, we will see further regulatory processes coming in. And I'm not bothered about, I'm actually very excited about the fact that there will be humongous value creation for humans. Uh, it'll be amazing in my opinion.
Okay, so optimistic, huh?
Very optimistic.
Very optimistic. You're not concerned about the deep fakes, the crypto frauds, all the stuff we're hearing, right? When countries using it, warfare, biohacking. I mean, it's like you're hearing all sorts of noises on one end. It's not bothering you.
Not exactly, because see, media has a tendency to scare, because we do not like to consume data which is very optimistic. So you'll see media has it's actually their job to clickbait. It's their job to create a huge narrative around things which make people scared, and governments like that as well. So my belief is that overall, while there are concerns, but that are with every technology. So in my opinion, I'm very excited about the possibilities of AI, because we will see a lot of human labor going away, and we will see humans spending time on more creative pursuits, and our ability to go into the space, our ability to actually, because it's all about knowledge consolidation. And by 2029, I genuinely feel we will be able to tell on which soil, it will be very hyper personalized, on which soil, what crop, what amount of water, what will work, what will not work, with so many data points. And just imagine for a farmer who didn't know before even harvesting his previous crop that whether he will be able to put the food on the table for himself after 3 months. And I'm very excited about
You're very excited. Okay. But since you touched upon this nerve, I have to use it as my segue. You talked about jobs will get replaced and human beings will have time for more productive pursuits. What happens in a country like India or Africa, different countries in Africa, where you have population of 1.4, 1.5 billion staring at you and you say, hey, jobs are going away with all this automation. Elon Musk was talking about 1 billion robots being in production, 1 billion robots entering the human workforce. It's pretty significant for a country like us and definitely for many countries across Africa. What does that tell you about unemployment and fear of joblessness?
I'm concerned about that, but I still feel that overall this will be a phase of, say, a decade. Humans are very resilient. We will have to change our education system. We will have to completely somersault how we impart. We will have to question basics, that do we need to train our students for, say, from the age of 4 to 18, or do we just send them out at the age of 12? So there needs to be because our current education system was built for the 9 to 5. Now the 9 to 5 was never ever built for the world that we are in right now. It was built for the manufacturing labor. For their right to ensure 9 to 5 is actually so I am a huge believer of the fact that we need to transform. The fundamental backbone of a nation is healthcare and education. Until and unless we change these two, we will not be able to truly, and unfortunately, at least our country hasn't given a lot of focus on education nor for healthcare. So I think this is high time. We need to completely somersault, and we welcome the new education policy, and we hope that that is a catalyst for change.
Okay, I'll take the last question. I know you have a very tight window over here. You talked about EVs in your paradigm, in autonomous vehicles, etc. Do you think sustainability has just become a sort of theme for companies to capitalize on, both organizations and investors riding the sustainability wave? You're familiar with all the funds that have been set up in the West, London and New York, very big on sustainability focused venture cap funds, large private equity amount of corpus going? Or do you think sustainability is genuine? Do you think companies are really out there trying to fight the battle for net zero?
See, companies will never ever try to fight any battle. Their companies are, see, the question is, your outcome is dependent on for what are you incentivized. Companies are never incentivized to be sustainable. They are, until and unless they are forcefully incentivized, like in the America with the carbon credit scheme.
Sure. Yeah.
They will never do anything good for the planet. That's very simple. And that's something that I'm very clear with that, and it's not their job, because that is how the capitalist
structure is set up. Okay.
So if you ask a CEO and you ask him that how much is sustainability important to you, while his words will be very, but in his heart, he has to report to a board which is full of capitalist I'll actually refrain from using that word, but it's full of capitalist people, wherein in his incentive is to increase the share value of each and every shareholder, including himself. So I don't think companies are incentivized, but this is a cause. I was in Greenland, and this is a cause which cannot be taken for granted, because unfortunately human beings are short-sighted and they are victims of instant gratification. They do not care about the next generations. So I genuinely hope that the governments create very tight regulatory frameworks to incentivize the companies for actually creating something good. Example, the new policy by the Honorable Finance Minister on biomass pellets, wherein every coal plant will have a 5% of all their coal consumption in the form of bamboo mixed with animal dung. Now, that is a significant. So I feel that we should not blame companies, we should blame the governments. Governments need to come together, create policies that incentivize shareholders. Create green bonds, more and more green bonds. So example, and I'll give you a very simple example on this. This is a topic very close to my heart. Creating a policy wherein any company that is building sustainable product gets a preferential treatment while doing a PLI, while doing any sort of government nomination. While these norms loosely exist, the challenge is they need to be taken, and we need to have a proper ministry that takes care of sustainability. Today, unfortunately, in India, we neither do don't have a ministry neither for sustainability nor for AI. Our human resource ministry and our education ministry, these are the four fundamental blocks of the past and the future, linking both the worlds together. So I think I'm very, very confident that governments need to step up with regulation, and sustainability as a concept cannot be thrown at companies nor at people. If you want to throw sustainability at people, what we do is we teach in educational institutes. I'll give you a small example. Whenever I take any class, I always ask people, a lot of people ask me that, which coffee would you like? And I always tell them, this is the kind of coffee I would like, but I would like it in a glass of steel, or I would like, so they ask me why. And I always tell them, I want to do things which are the best for the planet. Now, if you start teaching kids in KG, in nursery, about the planet, about the entire ecosystem and value creation, and then start telling them that whenever you go to a Starbucks and they ask you that, is it for here or to go? And you just tell them that whatever is good for the planet. That's mass adoption. And then companies are a huge contributor to the greenhouse gas emissions and so on and so forth. They need to be controlled by governments. So I feel that until that happens, this is all what's happening in the world right now about women in empowerment, about, see, until and unless the government gets this rule that 50% of all directors need to be women. Not see, the day the government said that listed companies should have at least one women in director, that is when this all started coming in. I'll tell you a very interesting, and then start shaming people who don't adopt. Example, I try not to go to any panel which is a manel. I need to have one women representative on the panel, because how do we make decision without 50% of the planet on representing. That's something which is bizarre. So I genuinely feel that women, uh, uh, geriatric care, multiple diverse opinions need to be tabled. And while I understand governments have their own challenges, but sustainability, women, healthcare, geriatrics, education, and AI will be the center stone of development for any nation.
Okay, I think that was very beautifully worded, very eloquent and very, very clear in your thought process. Very liberal, I must say, and very forward thinking. Thank you for this. I'm going to end with your slogan on whatever is good for the planet is hopefully what the future will look like for all of us. Thank you, Ritesh
My
Malik.
request is that the first one was, you are paid according to your ability to predict the future correctly.
Sure, absolutely.
And that is something which a lot of people don't realize, and that's why you need to ask the right questions.
Great. Okay, terrific. All right. Thank you, Ritesh Malik. This was fabulous. Lots of learning
also,
from you
when
as
you
well.
come to Delhi, please do WhatsApp me. I don't know if you have my number or not, but I'll just share.
I will stop the recording.